Where are we holding? Kuf base? Where are we?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Well, you can start, Harold.
I did.
Eruvin Chav Beis. Eruvin 22. Rabba Omar. We're talking about people who are learning Torah. B'misha mashker ponav alem ka'oired, that their face becomes blackened like a raven, because a raven, Rashi says, the mother ravens have their chicks arranged in a way that the insects fly right into their mouth, and therefore parnas is very easy for them. So the Talmidei Chachamim also want, their wives to be able to take care of the children without them having to go to work, so they have more time to learn. And Rava explains, he's cruel in a sense to his family because he makes his face like a raven. Rav would visit the yeshiva of Rav Amalei Dvis. His wife would say, you're going to learn. What am I going to do with my children? How am I going to feed them? Who feeds the ducks in the pond? It means nature does, or vegetables. Go get wild vegetables. It's you don't have to cultivate it as a farmer. You can just go find things in the wild, and that's sort of a cruel approach. But that's what the concept of being mashkir your face, that unless somebody is willing to take that attitude, he's never going to be a big Talmid Chacham. He can't be too concerned about his parnasa.
Didn't we have a Gemara maybe in Kedushin or something about Halahem, Halanu, Eretz Yisrael versus Babylon, that when you went to learn before you were married, after you were married, for exactly this issue? There's a machlokas there?
Yeah, machlokas Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. That means
no, not in brachas. The machlokas where he says whatever it was, the conclusion was whether you get married first and then learn, or whether you learn and then get married.
Right, correct. And that's right, because if you get married too soon, you're going to have so many responsibilities. You're not going to be able to learn properly. So it's similar in a way to this concept, that even after you get married, according to this pshat, you can't be too worried about the parnas of your children. Of course, you have to be worried. So maybe that's why the machlokas over there in Kiddushin is as it is. It relates to this. U'Mishalem, the son of Elpanav Lavido, he pays back his enemies to destroy him. If it wasn't for the fact that the Torah wrote it, we wouldn't be able to say it. It's like somebody has a burden that he's carrying on his face or on his head. He wants to get rid of it. It means Hashem wants to punish the Rishonim right away, but he sort of delays it, and that's it bothers HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He wants to get rid of him right away. Lo yacher l'sono, he won't delay in hating him. On Rabbi Law, l'sono v'udo lo yacher. Means he punishes the Rishonim sometimes as well. Remember, what he wants to do is he wants to give the Rishonim their reward in this world and save the eternal punishment for the next world. And that's so l'sono v'udo lo yacher, to give reward. But tzaddikim, he delays the goodness until asid level, because that goodness will be distributed eternally. You have to do mitzvahs today, not tomorrow. But hayom la'asosam, but not to get schar. The machar l'kabel schar. You're going to get your real schar only after this world. Abraham Chagivi Temar Shmuel Bar Nachmani might receive Erech Apayim, that Hashem holds back his anger. Now, why is anger plural? You could say Erech Af. Erech Af Maboile. Ela Erech Apayim L'Tzadikim, Erech Apayim L'Rishonim. That means he has a different format. Hashem, he waits to give the tzaddikim their schar, and by Rishonim also he waits, but he waits to give them their punishment. Two different approaches. So that's the apayim, the plural faces. Rav Yudah Omer ad Beis Yosayim. Then there was a debate how big the area around the Pasei Biros could be. Only up to 5,000 square ames. According to Rav Yehuda, could be as big as you want, as long as you have the right number of boards, according to Chachamim. So, Iboiluhu. Boru Pasim Ka'amar, when Rav Yehuda gave us that figure 5,000 square ames, does it include the area around the bore and the bore? Odilma bore velo Pasim Ka'amar. Or maybe he's referring to the size of the bore itself. Meaning, Adenoisen ain't of the borough. When a person looks at how big the water hole is, and if we give more, if we give the size of the bore as well as the area around it, we don't make a gzeira about carrying in an. We also, if you have a area that's fenced in, but it's not lived in. It's and then you have a maximum of 5,000 square ames. So do we make a gzeira by the bore and the pasim not to allow more than 5,000 square ames, because maybe people will come to think that they can carry more than 5,000 square ames by a car fake. So this mandamer says, no, we're not goizer. O dilma, or perhaps the person doesn't look at the size of the bore, he looks at the fence around the bore. And therefore, maybe we do make a gzeira that if we allow between the bore and the area around it more than 5,000 square ames, he will come to be confused and carry in a karfef where you have a limit of 5,000 square ames. So what's the answer? Toshma, come in here, approve. We ask, Kamahein Makuravin, how close or how small can you make the area around the bore? Kidei Rosha Veruba Shel Para. Right? Unless so small that you can only fit the cow there. Kamei meruchakim. How big can you make it? So the Chachamim answered, afilu kuraim could be unlimited. And Rabbi Yehuda Omer Beis Yosayim mutter, only 5,000 square ames. Yosef Beis Yosayim asr. So the Chachamim said to Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda, yata moideh. Don't you agree to us, the deer v'sar muktzah v'chotzer, that you have a corral or a place that you have chopped wood, or certainly a chotzer. These are all things that people do dwell in. That there is no limit if you fence it in properly with walls, that there's no limit how big it can be. So Amar I'm fine, I agree there. Zumachitza. But ve'elu pasim, you're asking me about these deficient kind of walls where you just put posts in the corner. That I don't agree that it's unlimited, because it's a deficient kind of wall. Reb Shimon ben Elazar Omer, as part of this brisa, bore the water hole. If it's Beis Yosayim, a Beis Yosayim mutter. Bore Beis Yosayim, a bore that's as big as Beis Yosayim, gets a Beis Yosayim. Also, you can only carry around at 5,000 square ames. V'lo anu larchik ela kidei rocha v'ruba shel para. Besides this Beis Yosayim of the size of the bore is only 2 ames, enough to put an animal in. So Reb Shimon seems to suggest that you don't get 5,000 square ames on top of the bore if the bore itself is 5,000 ames. So Hamid come Rav Shimon ben Elazar bor v'lo pasim. Rav Shimon just looks at the bor, not the area around it. Must be mechlad Rav Yehuda bor upasim ka'amar. That according to Rav Yehuda, you do take into account both the bor and the pasim. Below no. Rav Yehuda bor below pasim ka'amar. Rav Yehuda also is holding the bor without the pasim 5,000 grams. Ihachi, so that's the same height as Rav Shimon ben Elazar. Then what? L'chor, what is Rav Shimon ben Elazar coming to argue with? It seems the same shita. That means if it's rectangular, Rabbi Yehuda does make a difference. He allows the amount, the 5,000 grams, whether it's square or rectangular. But Rav Shimon ben Elazar says, no, only if it's square. It's got to be square. Then you get the base of sign. But otherwise, no. By the way, base of sign is calculated 70 and a third by 70 and a third. So it's 70 by 70 amas. That's 5,000 square amas. If you have a space and the space is used for dwelling purposes, deer, sar, muktzah, like a corral, because even having your animals there, that's considered, for dwelling purposes, or a area that you store your firewood, or a regular chutzner. So afilu beis chamesh is kurma, beis aser is kurmuter. So those have regular walls. So there's no limit how big that space can be. It could be unlimited. However, if the dira, if it's like a hut meant for the farmers that watch the crops, so that's not to dwell in. Like these huts that we learned yesterday that are out in the field, so those have a limit. Beis Asai mutter, they can only be 70 by 7 amas. Yosef Beis Asai mutter can't be that big. Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Ma'aya derech reshus harabim mefasketan. So let's say you have the well, these well boards. You have a well with the boards around it. We said there's a leniency because you can have pretty large open space. 10 amas according to Rabbi Meir, 13 and a third amas according to Rabbi Yehuda. So it's larger than a regular chotzer. So if this well area is right in the middle of the Reshus Harabim, so the fact that the public walks through it breaks it. And therefore, you saw Kenelit study, you got to move it to the side. Otherwise, it's not a good mechitza. The public comes and nullifies the mechitzos. However, the Chachamim learn that just because Reshus Harabim is walking through it, it doesn't ruin these pasim, or doesn't ruin this area as the status of Reshus HaYachid. So Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Elazar, Damar Tarvayu, Kan odiach kochan shel mechitzot. Here you see the power of the mechitzos, that the Reshus Harabim can't break them. And Kan usvirule. So it sounds like Rabbi Yochanan says this concept and agrees to it. Break the Gemara. The city of Yerushalayim, if it wasn't for the fact that the doors of the gates of Yerushalayim were closed at night, if you carried in Yerushalayim on Shabbos, now that seems to suggest that Rabbi Yochanan holds that even though there's walls in Yerushalayim, the fact that the public walks through them sort of breaks the status of the walls. And that's why it's like Reshus Harabim. So how can you tell me that Rabbi Yochanan says, Svirale holds like this concept that the Reshus Harabim do not have the power to break the mechitzos? So Elakan v'lo Svirale. So in Echanami, Rabbi Yochanan pointed it out, but he doesn't hold of that. However, the Gemara sees more steers. Ramid Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yehuda. The Ramid Rabbanan Rabbanan. I'm going to show you a stira with another baraisa to our Mishnah, both in the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda and both in the opinion of Rav Chacham. The time. Yasra Kenam Rabbi Yehuda. More than that, Rabbi Yehuda said, Misha Hilo Shnei Batim Shnei Tzir Reshus Harabim. You have on Olympic Boulevard houses on either side of the street. Let's assume Olympic Boulevard has the status of Reshus Harabim. So Rabbi Yehuda said, "Osa lo lechi mikan v'lechi mikan or kor mikan v'kor mikan." As long as you hang a lechi on the two open sides or a koreh, you can carry from across the street from one house to another. You can. So, yet in our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda said the public walking through will break mechitzas. Here, even though the public is walking through, the lechi of the korah that have been placed there, which is even not a mechitza, but it's a kind of mechitza, allows you to continue carrying from one house to another. So it's a steer in Rabbi Yehuda. Amrulo, ein marvin shesarab bekach. In fact, here the Chachamim say these mechitzas will not stand up to the Rishus Harabim. Yet in our Mishnah, the Chachamim said, "Ain't no tzarich enough to move the pasei biros away from the Rishus Harabim." Kasha Rabbi Yehuda Ruda, Kasha Rabbanan Rabbanan. We have a steer in both. The Rabbi Yehuda like Kasha. There's no steer in Rabbi Yehuda because Hasam the ikishte mechitzas ma'ayisam. See, by the houses in Olympic Boulevard, at least the two houses are real mechitzos. So there, Rabbi Yehuda says that the public does not disturb those mechitzos because they're not even walking there. Hacha, but by the pasei biros, lekeshte mechitzos ma'ayisam. All four corners of the pasei biros are just those double-sided boards. So that's not real mechitzas. So that's why the Rishus Harabim doesn't stand. The Rishus Harabim wipes them away. Yeah, but with the four pasim, the way they're built like a right angle, you still have four, what we call four mechitzos. Hasam lekashem arbam. Here you have a lechi and a korah, lechi and a korah, not mechitzos, because according to some, right, lechi and a korah is only for hecker, and not because of that they create mechitzos.
So Ernie, if Rabbi Yehuda is saying that Olympic Boulevard is not a problem because you have real mechitzos here because of the houses, what's the difference between that and the whole thing he said in the Mishnah, Yerushalayim, you had to lock the doors. If not, I mean, there's walls there. How is walls different than houses? Same thing.
So that's Rabbi Yochanan holds that the public destroys mechitzos. That's why Rabbi Yochanan does elakan v'lo svirale. He does not. There is a major debate. You want to say because
Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah said.
There you say it's a real Mishnah. No, we're not the statement of Rabbi Yochanan. Yushalayim ilmalid loseni los b'lechayim la mishum rishus harabim. And you want to say even though those are real mechitzos.
Exactly.
Yeah. So even according to Rabbi Yehuda should hold that that's okay because if two mechitzos work, why don't the mechitzos of Yerushalayim work? It's a good kasha. Don't know. Let's see. Because the makshal of Yehuda sholosh mechitzos deraisa lechikor mishum mechitza. The ishtem mechitzos deraisa will have a parach midi. It wouldn't be a kasha. Could be the third tosis is dealing with this. But anyway, it's a good ha'ara. When it says Rav Yochanan lo svirale, it's very clear that Rav Yochanan holds that the public comes. I don't care that you build mechitzos. If the Rishus Harabim goes right through it, they will nullify the mechitzos. So that's certainly an opinion. Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold of that, and certainly our Chachamim don't hold of that. So it must be a third opinion. Okay, we'll have to investigate further. Eretz Yisrael. By the way, the Rambam Paskins, if the Rishus Harabim travels through these pasei biros, now pasei biros are mechitzos, but they're weak mechitzos. Says the Rishus Harabim does not get disturbed by it. She'ein b'ki harabim mevatelis is mechitzos. We pass like the Chachamim, and therefore we don't hold like the shita that Yerushalayim you would be chayiv mishum Yerushalayim. The Chachamim would certainly hold there that the public does not, if the public does not affect the mechitzas of Pasuk Biros, they certainly would not affect the status of Yerushalayim. So we certainly don't hold that you can't carry Yerushalayim. By the way, it says over there, Tosfos, the top Tosfos says, "Hoil v'ayim tzursa Pesach, the chashiv k'mechitza, mieshot tzur and tzarch l'mayit loyal rabin." But also that prevents the rabbin from breaking the mechitzas. That's, for example, in city Eruvin, which are made with tzursa Pesach. That's why also there's a lot of people they don't mavatal it because the concept of tzursa Pesach prevents it from being mavatal by the public. Okay. In fact, all of Eretz Yisrael, there is no concept of Rishus Harabim. So Yosef Radim Karmelai Shmaitz, Armelai by Radim my time. Why does this Eretz Yisrael Bichlal have no din of Rishus Harabim? You have mountain ranges, and then you have low areas. So it's, in a sense, it's like you have two walls. Babylonia had the Euphrates and the Tigris, two major rivers, one on the other side, whatever, and therefore that should be. But we don't say that in Bavel there's no concept of Rishus Harabim. Says the Gemara, Kulanami Makif Ukiaimis. The whole world is surrounded by ocean. If you're going to tell me that geographic topography, like heights and depths, are considered like mechitzos, then why don't we consider that the whole world you shouldn't be able to have a Rishus Harabim because the ocean surrounds the world? So the Gemara says maybe Dilma Malay Sumarados Kamred. Maybe the reason why Eretz Yisrael is not considered Rishus Harabim because they have high mountains and low valleys. Listen, Karkafna refers to your head. I saw your head among the pillars of the yeshiva when you were listening to Rav Yochanan in this sugya in Itmar Nami. In fact, if you're in an area where you have these heights and valleys, there's no Rishus Harabim there. It doesn't satisfy the criteria of what it was like when Klal Yisrael was in the Midbar with the flags, which was a smooth area. So since we calculate 600,000 people based on the Diglei Midbar, and that was smooth, so Ein Echanami, in those areas of Eretz Yisrael that have heights and valleys, it doesn't qualify as Rishus Harabim. So that's another thing, that since Yerushalayim is built in the heights, right? The Hare Yehuda that also may rescue Yerushalayim as one of the reasons why it's not problematic. Rabbi Mahalkin B'Nehiris, Shulchan Aruch says any physical place where the public cannot walk easily because it's got topographical changes, ain't Rishus Harabim ela Carmelis. It's considered like a Carmelis. The question is, what is that area? Where is that area? And it's only in Eretz Yisrael because Yoshua created this. But in Chutz La'aretz, you're chayav. But that's according to Rabbi Yehuda. I'm reading Tosfos. Aval Rabbon afilu b'chutz la'aretz potter. In the Chutz La'aretz, anywhere it's going to be potter. So, are you telling me it says Freit Tosfos Hayoch that the Rabban Eretz Yisrael Tassim just Hayoch that they assume the term after together Ubabel Nami the Makaf Ditev Loas Rabbi Vadle Mechitzosom? So again, we'd have to learn that Tosfos inside to see how it relates to the final Shulchan Aruch Psak. But the final Shulchan Aruch Psak is that it does create sort of nullification of Rishus Harabim. Right. Tela mislakin asra mitoch arba. Let's say within a Rosh Hashanah, you have a mound that goes up 10 tfachim within arba amos. The Rabbin boy can boy, and the public walks there anyways. So they ask, does it have the status of Rosh Hashanah if you throw something there or carry something down Amos Rosh Hashanah, or is it not a Rosh Hashanah? So Alibid Rabbanon loy ti boy lecha. So according to Chachamim, there's no shaila. Remember, Hashtu Mahasam Denicha Tashmishte. By the Pasibi Rose, it's easy to walk in there. Yet, Abi Rabbanon lost Rabbi Vadle Machitzasa. The Chachamim clearly hold that the Rosh Hashanah doesn't mevatel those mechitzas. It remains Rosh Hashanah. Here, it's not easy to climb up this incline. Lo kol shekain, that the rabbim will not be mevatel it, and it will remain Rosh Hashanah. Hitiboy lo chalib Rabbi Yehuda. Shayla zakon Rabbi Yehuda. Hasamu denicha tashmishta. By the Pasibi Rose, where it's easy to walk there, it's flat. That's where Rabbi Yehuda said that the public is mevatel those mechitzas. But but here where it's an incline, where it's not easy to walk, maybe Rabbi Yehuda will hold that the public does not mevatel it. Or perhaps it makes no difference for Rabbi Yehuda. So he answered that no, it remains a Rishus HaRabim. That the public does invalidate those mechitzas as well. Let's say it's so steep that they had to attach a rope, and you have to climb up that area with a rope. In. Yes. It would still be considered, since the people in Rosh Hashanah are using it, they mevatel those mechitzas and it remains part of the Rosh Hashanah. Freit the Gemara vafilu but Malos Beis Maron. Malos Beis Maron was a place, like a cliff area, that was so steep that you could only go single file. Even in such a place, Omerle in. By the way, Rosh Hashanah is coming. In the Sana Tokef, we say, Kivakoros, Roe Edro, Kivnei Moron. We say Kivnei Moron. And there's a whole debate there among the Rishonim or among the Achronim. What does it refer to? Right? Because Hashem counts us. They're like the Nisana Tokov, it says like a stick that you count one by one. So some hold it relates to this place, this base Moron, where it was a steep place that you had to walk. Like it says in Rosh Hashanah, Kivnei Moron, that Hashem counts us, Kivnei Moron, and it refers to this, Kemalos Beis Moron. So Rashi lived a few hundred years before the Nisana Tokef, but the Nisana Tokef is built around that name in Rosh Hashanah that we are counted Kivnei Moron. Okay, Esvei. Chotzer Sharabim Nichnosin Lo Bezu, V'yotzin Bezu. You have a chotzer that has been opened up, and the rabbim go through the chotzer. They enter from one side of it, and they exit the other side. Now, Rishus HaRabim L'Tumah, Rishus HaYachid L'Shabbos. So, it has a status of Rishus HaYachid when it comes to Shabbos, meaning if you throw a ball from Rishus HaRabim into that place, you'd be chayav for transferring from Rishus HaRabim to Rishus HaYachid. But regarding the din of Safek Tumah, so the din is, if you find an object and you're not sure what it is, and you're not sure whether it's Tumah or not, so it depends where you find it. If you find it Rishus HaYachid, Safek Tumah is Tumah. If you find it Rishus HaRabim, Safek Tumah is Tohor. So a chotzer, the Rabbim is going through, has a din of Rishus HaRabim regarding Tumah, Rishus HaYachid L'Shabbos. Now, Mani. I mean, who is this? Ilay Rabbanon Hashdu Mahasam. Denicha Tashmishte. By the Pasibi Rose. The Rabbanon, it was easy to go through there. Rabbanon Lasu Rabim Vatam Mechitzasa. It was preserved as a Rishus HaYachid. Here, because a Chotzer has two walls, it's not easy for the public to go through such a tight area. So certainly, it should retain its status as a Rishus HaYachid. It should be the Rishus HaYachid both l'Shabbos and l'Tumah. So why is it Elav Rabbi Yehuda? So maybe it's Rabbi Yehuda, and you see Rabbi Yehuda then is making a difference between different places. Because here he holds it to this price that we quoted, says Rishus HaYachid l'Shabbos, that the public does not come and mevatel the mechitzas. But says lo l'olam Rabbanon. It's not a proof regarding Rabbi Yehuda. That is also the sheet of Rabbanon. The chiddush was Rishus HaRabim l'Tumah Yitzvah Chalei. It's not it remains Rishus HaYachid like the din of the Chachamim that they don't not destroy the Pasei Biros. Those mechitzas are not nullified, so that remains. But the chiddush is regarding this issue of it's considered Rishus HaRabim l'Tumah, even though the Chotzer is Rishus HaYachid l'Shabbos, it's still considered Rishus HaRabim. We're makel regarding Tumah. But we're trying to find out regarding Rabbi Yehuda what's the din. Toshma. Mevuos amafuloshos. You have a mavui, an alley through and through that open up into a bor sichin of moros. So what are those mavuos? Rishus HaYachid l'Shabbos, Rishus HaRabim l'Tumah. So I understand, but boiras sakadaita, how could it empty into a bore? Then it would not be a mavi mafulish. Mavi mafulish has got to be a through and through easy way open. Ella la boiras. That means it leads you into an area that has a bore, but not the whole thing is a part of a bore. So the din is Rishus HaYachid l'Shabbos, Rishus HaRabim l'Tumah. Man. If we say that the author of this is the Chacham Hashta, by an open, well-bored area, which was open on all four sides, where it's easy for the Rishus HaRabim to walk through there. The Chacham said, the public does not mevatel those mechitzas. Hacha, going through a narrow alleyway, the lo nicha tashmishta, lo kol shekain, that those mechitzas should not be nullified. So how could you say that it's in any way a Rishus HaRabim? Elalav Rabbi Yehuda, so maybe it's Rabbi Yehuda lo, Molam Rabbanon. And again, Rishus HaRabim l'Tumah Yitzvah Chalei. The chiddush mainly is that we're making by Rishus HaRabim, but really it keeps the status of Rishus HaYachid. And it's not Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda never says that the public nullifies mechitzos, no matter what it is. It remains Rishus HaRabim. Toshma. Shvile Beis Gilgul. The pathways of Beis Gilgul. These were Rashi says it's a high area. Malik Vov is a Kufi Bears Israel. It's an area of a high topography and geography in Eretz Israel. So the din is Rishus HaYachid l'Shabbos, Rishus HaRabim l'Tumah. Ve'zer shvile Beis Gilgul. It's so narrow that a servant cannot carry a bushel of wheat and run in front of the officer because it's so steep. Mani. By the Pasei Rose, it's easy to go there. Yet, I'm Rabban also Rabban like the Mechitzas. So the Chachamim said the public doesn't nullify the Mechitzas. Hacha, here it's hard to go. That it should not be nullified. Elalav Rabbi Yehuda, that's special. Yoshua of Yisrael. We learned in our Navi Shir that Yoshua made 10 takonos. He between people and people. He set aside roads and plazas, or large streets for the king. and he made a gather there. Wherever it was easy to walk, Masar l'Rabbim, he gave that to the Rabbim. It's like eminent domain. A person couldn't claim this is my private area. If Yoshua gave it to the Rabbim, it remains to the Rabbim in perpetuity. But Yoshua didn't do it in areas that was hard to walk, like in high areas. There, he gave it to the Yochid, and it remains a Yochid. Okay, we'll stop here. So, Mirz Hashem, tonight, Navi Shir is at 8 o'clock, and we will learn Daf Yomi tomorrow night at standard time, 8 o'clock.
Koyach.
Have a good day.
You do.